Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random. Today we are looking at the Omega Swatch collaboration, the MoonSwatch. And which one did I pick up in Las Vegas? Now, I battled with myself back and forth whether or not I was going to actually spend the money on the Omega MoonSwatch. And when I went to New York with my fiance, Jamie, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and pull the trigger. I had gone to another authorized dealer at another shop a couple days prior, and they didn't really have the one that I wanted. That being said, when it comes to the MoonSwatch, even a year later, you're not really going to get the one that you want. And I say that because the selection is limited at every authorized dealer that actually has them, and the likelihood, unless you live in the area and you check daily or weekly, you're probably not going to find exactly what you want. Because I don't live in Las Vegas and I don't live near an authorized dealer, I just kind of had to bite the bullet and get the best of what I thought was available. Now, it's funny because a year ago, one of the most popular versions was something like the Mission to Uranus, which is the Tiffany blue, right? The bright colors last year were the most popular, but then actually talking to the Swatch dealer, he said the most popular ones were actually the Mission to Mercury and the Mission to the Moon. And the reason for that is because they more closely resemble the Omega Speedmaster, the original one, other than the bright, flamboyant colors. And that kind of made sense to me. Now, when I went in, I really wanted the Mission to Neptune, which is the dark blue, or the Mission to the Moon, which is the dark gray case. Now, the ones they had available were exactly what were popular last year, but are not popular this year. And that was the Mission to the Sun, the Mission to Venus, Mission to Uranus, and Mission to Jupiter. They also had Mission to Earth. Now, outside the very bright colored ones, the Mission to Earth was the most low-key one that I could get. So that's what I chose to get. So let's flip the camera around and unbox the Mission to Earth. Now, like a lot of purchases that I've purchased in the past, this was one that I really was hesitant to actually spend my money on, but I'm kind of glad I did. Now, the box is something that really is underwhelming. I know they tried to cut costs with this watch, it being a Swiss watch. You take the outer sleeve off, that is a cardboard plastic. Then you have a kind of open display, bifold where you can open up to the watch itself, which is displayed on the inside. One of the things I did not like was when I asked to handle the MoonSwatch, the guy said, you know what, you can put it on your wrist, but what you can't do is latch it to your wrist or Velcro it to your wrist. What that would do is cause a crease in the strap itself, and the last thing they wanted was a crease before it could go on your wrist. I understand after I purchased it why. However, I think this is kind of poor practice, because if I want to buy something and I want to see it on my wrist, I should be able to try it on my wrist, not just kind of hold it up to my wrist to get an understanding or idea of what it is. I mean, it was $260. It wasn't $2,000, but a lot of people can't even afford $260. So if they make the journey to spend the $260, at least offer a watch that I can try on my wrist. Inside, it does have the warranty card. It does have some stock here with some photos showing the other watch collections. And then you take it out, and it is just like you think, underwhelming, you know, as any MoonSwatch would be. I wasn't upset about the purchase, but I was a little bit holding back when I started to look still at the prices online. Now, $260 was a lot for this watch, and I don't regret buying the watch. I'm happy that I own a MoonSwatch now. But to see the prices online still $100 to $200 above retail, to me is just it's sad because I wouldn't spend $300 on this watch, even though a year ago I actually made a video saying, yeah, you know, if it was $100 over retail, I'd buy that. Maybe I would, but having it in hand, yeah, I really wouldn't, you know, spend more than $300 on a $260 watch. All that being said, let's just go ahead and go over the dimensions. Let's handle the watch, and I'll go over some of my pros, some of my cons. In a future video, I'm going to compare this to a Pagani design and explain why they should have done it differently. Then in a third video in the future, I'm going to compare this directly to an Omega Speedmaster that my buddy has that I've actually had on this channel in the past. Now, the case dimensions of this watch is going to be 42 millimeters in diameter. It's going to be 13 millimeters thick, 20 millimeters for the lug width, and a 47 millimeter lug to lug. So the overall footprint of the watch, 47 millimeters, which is actually relatively small for a case diameter of 42 millimeters, so it doesn't fit overly large. The thickness of the watch at 13 millimeters means it sits a little prominent on the wrist, but it really does just slip underneath the cuff. This is from that domed acrylic crystal that's on the watch. I understand why they used acrylic crystal. We're going to get into that in the Pagani design comparison with this of why they should have used something else. However, the domed acrylic crystal does its job and it does protect the watch. The case material, they say, is bioceramic, and this is sort of like a green, but bioceramic in this instance really just means plastic. Now, the weight of the watch is extremely light, and sadly, it does feel like a child's watch. You're not going to know until you hold it exactly what I mean, but it almost is weightless, right? They say bioceramic, I say plastic. And, you know, it's just really cheap feeling, right? It just kind of is what it is. On the back, it does have the earth at the 12 o'clock position on the case back, and this does only offer 30 meters of water resistance, which are minimal water resistance rating. Now, the way this works is it does have a Swiss quartz movement from Swatch. You hit the pusher at the 2 o'clock position and it does start the chronograph function. This is not a mega quartz, this is a standard quartz, so it does tick at 1 tick a second, and you can see it does have some sub dials there. Hit that again, the pusher at the 2 o'clock, it stops it, hit the pusher at the 4 o'clock, and then it goes all the way around 360 to reset itself. It does not have a flyback on the chronograph. When setting this watch, you just simply pull out the crown, and once it's engaged all the way, you can actually fix the second-hand timer as well as the subdials itself. And the way to do that is simply once it's pulled out, you can just hit the pusher at the 2 o'clock position, and that allows you to adjust the main second hand, and then the pusher at the 4 o'clock allows you to adjust the subdial. I mean, it's super simple. The second hand doesn't line up perfectly, which you'd expect for something that says Omega, even Swatch, but it doesn't. I mean, let's be honest. Let's just be honest with this whole collaboration. And everybody already knows this, and even buying the MoonSwatch, you know it going in. You're buying the watch because it says Omega, and it's $260. Really, that's it. One of the things that a lot of people complained about was the strap, and I don't understand why. It does feel a little cheap, and it does have a bioceramic or plastic loop here that holds the strap in. However, the strap is relatively comfortable on the wrist. It does say Speedmaster along the back, and it does say Mission to Earth and MoonSwatch. And the strap was very comfortable, and I understand why they didn't want you to bend the strap. I understand why they want it to first conform to your wrist, and then it's going to be comfortable after that. And every time I wore this, it was absolutely comfortable. I wore it up until just 15 minutes ago before I started this video. And I know a lot of the issues they had when the MoonSwatch was first released, which was the case back rubbing on the skin. I think they've gotten rid of that because I was in Las Vegas, 100-degree weather, and this didn't rub off at all. So maybe they have fixed that issue that came from the beginning, and it's not really an issue now. That being said, let's go over the pros of this watch and the cons. Now, it does have a bioceramic case, which means it's extremely lightweight. Now, is it strong? No. A lot of people, to include Adrian Barker from Bark and Jack, have done videos that the pusher broke off simply hitting it on the corner of a desk. So is it strong? No, it's not. So pro, it's lightweight. Con, it's very brittle and weak. It does have an acrylic crystal. Now, the pro of an acrylic crystal is it's impact resistant, sort of like the old Speedmasters or even some of the Speedmasters today where they use acrylic crystals. It can impact something and that acrylic allows it to bend and scratch instead of shatter, and then you can just buff it out with some polywatch. That being said, it does scratch relatively easy. So pro and con, depending on how you want to look at it. It does offer a Swiss quartz movement, which is great. A quartz movement is very reliable. One of the things I don't like about it is it's not a mecha quartz movement. I am so used to the Pagani designs of today that are $100 that offer a mecha quartz movement. So when I hit that pusher at the 2 o'clock, it ticks at 5 ticks a second. So it gives me the impression that it is a mechanical watch without it being a mechanical watch. And this does not. Is that a deal breaker? No. It is a very accurate movement, and it's very nice. Now, the dial on this is almost perfect. I will say that the dial is nearly perfect. A lot of cheaper watches have quality control issues. Swatch made sure that this has no quality control issues. The subdials are perfect. The printing is perfect. The indices are perfect. The lume is not something to write home about. But other than that, I think generally it is a good watch. Is it worth $260? Well, because it says Omega on it, it's worth $260. But if it said Swatch on it, it'd be worth $120. So again, is it worth it? Sure, if you like the MoonSwatch, right? I understand why people go for the Mission to the Moon and the Mission to Mercury, because those are the darker cases and those look more like Omega Moon watches, right? The Speedmaster. This is not a Speedmaster. This is a Swatchmaster, right? It is, I know that it says Speedmaster on it, but it's not. It's a child Speedmaster. Right? That's really what it is. Does it have novelty to it? Of course it does. And then they released the gold swatch or whatever, or the gold moon or the moon gold or whatever with the gold second hand. And I understand why they did that as well. But I think that if you could pick up the one that you want, the specific one that you want, if you like the Mission Neptune, which online is extremely insanely overpriced, then you should pick up that. If you like the Mission to the Earth or Mission to the Sun or Mission to Mercury or Mission to the Moon, I think that if you could actually go in and pick up the one that you want, I think that you should. The sucky thing is you're not going to be able to find the one that you want unless you want one of the bright colors. Again, the Mission to Uranus or however you want to say, that was the hard one to find last year. That was the one that was overpriced because Tiffany Blue was so overblown on everything from Patek Philippe to Rolex and everything in between. And it was very hard to find. And now that's one of the easiest ones to find and one of the cheapest ones to find. So it's funny how things ebb and flow like that. Well, here it is on my 7¼ inch wrist. You can see that lug to lug of 47 millimeters really does give it a perfect presence on the wrist. It's lightweight, means it's very easy to wear, and it does slip underneath the cuff quite nicely. I do like this watch. It is slightly sporty. However, 30 meters of water resistance really means you can't do anything with it. And the pure fact that it is a bioceramic or plastic watch with an acrylic crystal means you're really not going to do much sport stuff with it. So keep that in mind when wearing the watch. Though it does feel sporty, it's not sporty. Though it does feel strong, it's not strong. And it is lightweight and it's easy to break. So keep all that in mind. Now I'm going to compare this again with a Pagani design of what the MoonSwatch should have been and what they could have done if they would have just not gone for the money grab and put the Omega logo on it and then cheapen down on everything else. I think they could have done a lot better. A lot of people have said the same thing. Trust me, I'm beating a dead horse with this, but I am going to do a side-by-side comparison. Then I am going to compare it to an actual Omega Speedmaster, so stay tuned. Now, I have a lot of videos coming up in the future. Guys, if you're not following me on Instagram, what I do is I put pictures up on Instagram of things that I'm going to review. It's all _things_random_AK. There is a link down in the description. Also, guys, look at all the links down in the description If you're looking at buying a watch from a gray market dealer, I got a link for Jomashop that helps the channel. If you're looking at buying a watch that I've reviewed here, I have a link down below for my eBay that sometimes I post these watches at a heavy discount. And also check out my own personal watch strap company, Chase Straps. When I do the comparison to other watches, I will put this watch on a chase strap because it can easily fit on a chase strap. So if you're looking for a luxury watch strap for your watches, check out Chase Strap. And remember, guys, I have a lot of videos coming up in the future. I have dive videos. I have other review stuff, mostly watches, random stuff sprinkled in between. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.